Hey. Okay. So critiques for multifunctional furniture are today at midnight. Okay. Um, so take the feedback you got in class on those 12, narrow that down to 6, finish those 6 a bit more. If you didn't get much feedback, I think I got most. I got to most people. If you didn't get enough feedback, you can ask for some more. I think everybody, did you get feedback? Yeah. Okay, all right. You weren't here last week, right? In class, or were you? I thought we did yours. Did we not do yours?
I don't think
so. Okay, all right. Did you get feedback? Okay, all right.
I thought we didn't have class
that's right. Last week we didn't have class. That's right. I forgot. My days blur together right now. You guys have gotten feedback too, right? Okay, great. So I'll do you guys here in just a few minutes. Okay, we'll do some feedback real quick. I still want you to submit tonight because the submissions are like 6 ideas. You have your 12 thumbnail sketches and then narrow those down to 6, and you still have to submit for it tonight. That's slightly more drawings. It's a top, a bottom, perspective. What did I say? Front, top, bottom. No, front, top, side perspective. And then more notes. Okay. Really, the notes just need to really clearly explain how your ideas change states to reach those 3 different functions. Okay. All right. If you've been watching the class recordings, I talked about how storage is fine as a function, but it is low-hanging fruit. I'd like to see you kind of reach a little higher, try to come up with more cleverer functions, and not just go for the easy thing. It's okay to have a couple ideas where storage is inherent, but oftentimes storage is not a function that it changes into mechanically or physically, right? It's just that you have negative space and you can put stuff in it. Storage that is just negative space that you can put stuff into it, it's going to count, but I'm not going to grade it very highly. Whereas, we'll put it this way, it's not going to get through the critique. Whereas storage where it like mechanically or physically is changing into it in some manner, that's much better. That I'm more inclined to accept. Okay. All right, so that's due at midnight. We are starting a new project today. We're going to do mural designs. Oops, close all these here. All right, let's take a look at mural designs. Okay, so we're going to propose designing murals. We're going to design one mural for 1 or 2 sites. It depends. Usually we do site visits. That's a little more difficult right now as a class. You're more than welcome to do site visits on your own. Okay. You can pick a site on campus. This wall directly out the window of the library is a popular choice often. But you're going to find one of these walls, and then I want you to design a mural that fits it. Professor Koch has put together a PDF about how she makes murals. She does a lot of murals, community art. There is a video to watch called The Art Assignment, or Why Murals. There's Melee's murals. And then there's something called projection mapping, which is using projectors and being able to... very weird. Sorry, I'm wondering why that computer's on. Using a projector and distorting how the image comes out of the projector to match actual physical geometry. All right, so you can like bend how your image looks on your screen to fit the perspective that the projector happens to be at, so that it looks like it's flat up against a wall or contorts itself around a building. So there's some really interesting things you can do with that. For the critique, there need to be sketches, so I'd like to see 3 distinctly different ideas for the space in color. Okay, these can be on paper or digitally. Color can be by hand or digitally, so you could like draw it on paper, take a picture of it, clean that up, and then color it in Photoshop or Illustrator, however you feel like. Or you can do everything digitally, or you can do everything physically. I don't care how you get it done. It just needs to be done, and it needs to be in color. Okay, so you're going to pick one site, or two, if you want to do two. If you do two, it's just more work, really, because I'd still need 3 different ideas for each site. Okay, but one site, 3 different mural ideas for that site. Okay, a good thing to think about are things like, murals are public, okay? So generally you want to do something that fits the local area, like fits either their sense of self, their identity, it's promotional in terms of like their culture or the values they want to have. Maybe you're conforming or playing off of the architecture, right? The geometry of the building. Maybe it has nothing to do with that, and you're doing just lots of decorative abstract things. If you're mobile, if you have a car and you can get around, good neighborhoods in town to visit that have lots of murals are Benson, South Omaha, North Omaha. Dundee doesn't really have any. Blackstone has a couple. Blackstone is very much a development project, so they're kind of hip, right? They're not homegrown. North Omaha definitely has a bunch. Bethany's done a bunch up there, Cluster Clock. And Benson has a ton. Okay. So you can just kind of drive around and you'll find them and look at them. And just sort of just, figure out, do they work for that space? Do they work for the space? Do they promote a business that's there? Do they promote something about the community? Do they not promote anything? There's a couple downtown, like by the stadium. There's a giant one. You guys know the one I'm talking about? It's like right by the baseball stadium. Yeah, that one's huge. That's about the region. It's all regional story stuff. So there's a bunch of different types. Okay, and so watch the videos. Also, when you get into art history, a lot of these really famous works done inside of churches. These are murals, right? For everybody to see, they tell a certain story. They were commissioned by the church or someone within the church, and executed by an artist in his workshop, his apprentices and journeymen. Okay. More contemporarily, you've got I'm blanking. That is a hard blank. And Frida Kahlo's husband. I'm just going to call him Frida Kahlo's husband. These are works by Frida Kahlo's husband, Pedro. All I can think of is the director. Motivar. I can't think of his name. Anyway, Neruda? No, Pablo Neruda. I think of this artist's name. Anyway, Frida Kahlo's husband. I think they stayed married. They were married at one point. He did a whole bunch of works, kind of like communist or socialist in theme, in terms of like they were always about the working class in Mexico, and he did them all over the world. He's got murals in, I think, you know what, we're just going to look him up. Because Frida Kahlo's husband, Diego Rivera, not Pedro. Diego Rivera. Interesting. Oh, they were married at different times. They spent a year apart. They were married for 10 years, got divorced for a year, got married again for 14 years. Did he die? Oh, he died in 57. Okay. So he's got murals in Detroit. The Detroit Art Museum has a huge mural of his. It's an entire room. It's amazing. He's got murals. We'll just do Diego Rivera murals. Gosh, yeah, all over the place. San Francisco, Mexico City. Pretty sure he's got some in New York City as well. Yeah, this is the Rockefeller Center one. This is the one I was thinking of. So this one in Rockefeller Center is pretty great. So, he's got a very dense style that's actually really reminiscent of old Flemish paintings. Think about it. Vernacular. No, not vernacular. What am I talking about? There we go. See stuff like this. It's really dense, lots of people. There's also rigidity to it, like in early Renaissance stuff. What am I thinking of? Kind of like these things, where the perspective is really kind of skewed. They're not trying to show true perspective. They're just trying to fit everybody into the painting. More like this, stuff like this. Anyway, so Diego Rivera did a bunch of murals. I don't think Kahlo ever did any murals, but that's a Diego Rivera one. I forget where this one is. Or you can just have simple geometric stuff. Or you've got, pop art things, right? It's whatever your feel and whatever your style is. Okay. If draftsmanship is not your cup of tea, your bag of cats. That's what my grandmother says. I don't know why. That makes no sense. You could, doing something that's geometric or abstract would be a good idea. Just shapes and colors, right? You could very easily find some color schemes to follow. There's you could find a palette maker, like a web palette maker. Just Google that. There's a bunch of different ones. This will help you put together like a palette of colors that all work together. Things like that. And just go off of those different things. So do some research as always. Murals. What I don't want to see is I don't want to see something that is just treating the wall as if it's a painting canvas. Okay? I would really, really like to see you take into account the space, the context of the mural. Think about the building. Think about the room. Think about how big it's going to be, right? There's lots of interesting things that happen with optical illusions when you have color fields that are gigantic. You've got things like Solowit. Oops. Who's an artist who did these murals. These are it's all conceptual art that he did way back in the day. Now he's known for coming up with the ideas and then writing down the instructions for the ideas for other people to then execute. Like he rarely painted his own murals because for him the work was not in the production of the mural. The work was in coming up with the idea for the mural. Right? So he's often considered a conceptual artist, but he works with simple shapes and colors to great effect. I actually saw a Solowit over the weekend because they have one at the Des Moines Art Center, a really huge one. And being in the space makes a huge difference. When you're, it's actually very similar to this. When your scale is a very big deal with these things, okay, and you're going to be working at a very large scale, right? Being in a space, in a space that is occupied and dominated by giant imagery is effective and affecting. That's why cathedrals and churches have big interior spaces, right? Filled with all kinds of different imagery. It's to overwhelm you and create a sense of surreality, like a sense of, this reality feels very different, all right? I don't know if there's any big interior murals around here, but I really recommend visiting some murals here in town and just getting a feel for what that experience is like. Okay, not just looking at it through your screen, because this isn't gonna give you that feeling, right? But actually getting into a space will. If you have access to a VR headset, I know it's a long shot, you can look some up in a VR headset very easily. Okay. I have a bunch, but COVID, I can't let you guys use them right now, sadly. Yeah, COVID kind of puts a damper on my virtual reality class. So lots of research first. Okay, decide the kind of murals you want to make. And since you have to do 3 different ideas, you could do a geometric, you could do an illustrative. Your illustrative could be personal illustration, or it could be external illustration, community client-based illustration. If you like the constraints that doing a mural for a business provides you, do that. Okay. All right. Are there any questions about this project? This one's a lot faster, generally. It's on the 8th, I think, is when we're going to, the due date. Back up and look. Yeah, critique is on the 8th. Oh, this 22nd is wrong for final submission. I'll change that. That has midterms built into it. So yeah, so we're on the 22nd. The 8th is 2.5 weeks. Actually, that's a good amount of time. Okay. This is essentially your midterm project. So I do want those illustrations to feel finished. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and, just like with the multifunctional furniture, I'm going to make a review submission, and that'll be due in a week. All right, so on Tuesday. That way, I'll get a look at what you're doing before you do critiques. Okay, and we can always talk about it in class too. Cool. All right, any questions? No. Okay, go ahead and get started on that then. Spend some time doing research. I'm going to put up an episode of. I'll put up some videos on here. We'll do some of the reading from the assignment, but then there's some extra stuff I'll show you. It's about like murals and people that make murals and stuff like that. So some supplementary stuff. You guys will talk about your stuff first, and then I'll do that. Sound good? All right. Good. And